Football Friday continues. We do have some breaking news for our Queen City viewers. It remains our number one region for viewership, Regina Sask. Regina-based Queen City Sports and Entertainment is pleased to announce that they have purchased the Regina Red Sox Baseball Club. The deal expected to close on October 1st, 2025. Regina Red Sox play in our Western Canadian Baseball League. We'll be talking about that more later. But Jim Barker is with us from the CFL on TSN. Coach, I think you've been hopefully watching the show for a bit. Your thoughts on the Thursday nighter, week 2 opening, Winnipeg smashing BC 38-20 last night?
Well, some things don't change, and I think physically BC hasn't changed like they had hoped, bringing Buck Pearson and getting that more physical mentality or just the way they play. They started 4 American offensive linemen and still got beat to hell up front. I mean, there was pressure on Nathan Rourke all night long. Again, it was the first game Winnipeg had played, but they've lost. They've got some new guys in there, and they pressured him. BC couldn't run the ball. They hardly even tried with James Butler. So they're the same as they've been. They're not physical. Defensively, they couldn't handle a lot. Formation wise, they would line up a tight end and just gashed them twice. Oliveira early, and then Pedersen for the touchdown. They just couldn't handle the tight end lined up there. It creates a little different problem. In Canada, defensive coordinators have only learned the width of the field is a strong side and the boundary because of the size of the field. In the U.S., you always learn strength of the formation, meaning a tight end, that becomes a strength of, well, they don't do that in Canada. Most Canadian defensive coordinators, they use the field, and that's what happened. I thought they didn't have run support and got beat there. But bottom line is physically, Winnipeg ran the ball. They ran the ball with Pedersen, a rookie out of Alberta. Again, you like to say Brady Oliveira but it doesn't matter who they put in there. Last year it was Johnny Augustine, and so the problem for BC is they can't get by Winnipeg because they haven't been physical enough. That hasn't changed as of last night. And I think that BC's in trouble if Nathan Rourke is out for a bit. I thought that your point on that was well taken. So let's hope he's not out. But physically, they just can't hang with the top team in that division.
Can you tell me what you see in Chris Streveler? I picked BC to win because Zach Collaros was out, and Streveler, he wasn't the reason for the win, but he didn't lose them either. Your thoughts on this quarterback for Winnipeg?
Well, I did the same thing as you. I picked BC. I figured, physically they're playing 4 offensive linemen. They're going to take it. They're not going to get pushed around the way they always get pushed around. But, of course, that didn't happen. Streveler functions in the offense. It was funny. I was talking to Zach Collaros during the day, and he said the one thing that Chris Streveler can do, if they vacate the center, if they take that free safety out to bring him down to add somebody into the box, he will hurt him. He'll hurt him badly on the back end, and he did. Exactly what happened was exactly what Zach said would happen. So I think Streveler, he's never going to be that guy who's the Dave Dickinson type passer, the very accurate, the Ricky Ray. That's not his game. But if he can keep from throwing interceptions, he has a tendency on short passes. He throws them high, they get intercepted, and because he throws them too high and that kind of thing. But too hard and too high. But you can function with him in the right offense, and I thought that young offensive coordinator Jason Hogan did a fantastic job in terms of keeping Streveler away from himself. Let me put it like that. I mean, allowing him to be the quarterback on a winning team instead of feeling like he had to do it. He was a player on that 12-man offense, and he just had to do his part. And I thought Hogan did a nice job of that, because that's not always easy. It's not always easy to do. So they get Zach back, and they're going to be. I was impressed with their offensive line. I thought they handled BC's defensive front easily, and BC just still has a long way to go defensively. How physical are they?
Yeah, and the Lions fan wrote in, you might have seen it, Simon wants to know who they should sign in the absence of Rourke. Who you think might be out there on a short list?
Well, they're probably going to play Chase Bryce. I think they like him a lot, the third guy. I think Jeremiah's great in the role he's in right now, where he can come off the bench. And, again, Chase Bryce is probably the future guy for them. But I would go out, to be honest with you, tomorrow's the UFL championship game. And those two quarterbacks, Jordan Tamu for the DC Defenders, and then the UFL Player of the Year, Bryce Perkins for Michigan. I would look at signing one of those guys. I mean, their season's over, and their free agents can sign anywhere. I'd look at somebody like Bryce Perkins. Calgary signed PJ Walker out of that league. He's now their backup and has shown signs of being good. I love Bryce Perkins when he was with the Rams. I thought he had a lot of CFL upside. He runs well and pretty good arm. And so that would be the one thing for watching the UFL championship game, is to watch those two quarterbacks as potential CFL guys down the road. So I would look there, but in the CFL with CFL experience, you have Shea Patterson out there, you have Cameron Dukes out there. You're going to get guys that are maybe have shown they're not going to take you to a Grey Cup. I think with Chase Bryce, they have a young guy that he hasn't proven yet that he's not good enough to take him to the Grey Cup. I think with Shea Patterson, that kind of happened. I mean, I think Saskatchewan gave up on him because they said, you know what, he's not bad, but he's not the guy who can take us if we need it. And same thing with Cameron Dukes. I think the same thing happened to him in Toronto, where they just made a decision. He's not the guy who can, and then your backup quarterback is a different thing. It's not, it's not always the next starter is not always the backup quarterback. And that's what I think they have in Jeremiah Mazzoli.
There's Rob in Las Vegas writes in, by the way. He says, great breakdown of the game, Coach, as always. He's a Bomber fan in Vegas. We got to get him over to the Bellagio. You know what I'm saying? Jake Dolegala is out there, too. Jake Dolegala is out there, too. We have a lot of Argos fans.
Hamilton signed.
Oh, did he sign him? Oh, I missed that one.
He's taking he's taking his act there.
They don't send me their news releases because they're mad that I picked on Simone Lawrence back in the day. They're still pissed off about that. Anyways, we have a lot of Argos fans and a lot of Stampeders fans that watch this show, and they meet tomorrow. How do you feel about that game?
I think that the Argos are going to have a problem with Vernon Adams. Now, Vernon Adams has typically struggled in Toronto. I don't know if you remember last year when he was in BC, he was on a roll and he threw like 5 interceptions and kind of came back to earth. So he's had trouble in Toronto. Notwithstanding that, I think he gives the Argos a lot of problems. The Argos, they're a totally different defensive front. I don't know that they have the speed to be able to contain a guy like Vernon Adams. So I'm gonna pick Calgary. I was surprised their defense played as well as they did. I just think that Toronto defensively just did not look good to me at all against Montreal. Again, Davis Alexander. You got to watch a guy. Watching him in his first real game as the starter, he's going to be a player. There's no doubt in my mind he's legit, and he immediately takes Montreal to the top of that East. There's no doubt, because that was my big concern. Montreal plays such great defense, and Davis Alexander understands, if I don't turn the ball over, we're going to have a great chance to win. And he runs the ball effectively enough. But in the Toronto-Calgary game, I think it's a fascinating game. Again, can Nick Arbuckle get this offense to a point? Again, I wasn't happy with their offensive line. Darius Sirocco, who was the starting center, is going to be out. So how can they do against... Again, I didn't know any of these guys outside of Flo. I know Flo, who's coming back to Toronto and is going to be in their backfield all day long, because he just always is, Flo Arumalade. So, again, that defensive front, I thought, for Calgary did a fantastic job last week against Hamilton. And I think that's going to give Toronto's offensive line a lot of problems. So, I'm picking them. I'm not sold on the running back situation in Toronto. Deontay McMahon, he's a great backup running back. But as a starter, it's going to be interesting to see how long he stays as that. Kadeem Carey, in the meantime, dresses tomorrow because they lost Hudon for this game. So it'll be Ouellette and Kadeem Carey playing against Hamilton down the road. So it's an interesting weekend. I think they're difficult games to pick. I really do. I think they're outside of
Yeah.
Montreal, Ottawa. Outside of Montreal, Ottawa, because of the quarterback situation you talked about. The other games are very difficult to pick for me. It's the Calgary Toronto game is just that's a tough one, and then Hamilton and Saskatchewan, because again, Saskatchewan at times plays real well. Their defensive line has a chance to be great. They really do. Shane Ray looked like old Shane Ray, and with him and Malik Carney on the edge, you got two guys that can run. They're going to be put to the test. Scott Milanovich will give them a lot of formations. They're going to have to play the run. They lost Avery, CJ Avery, the will linebacker. So AJ Allen, a Canadian, is going to step in at that will linebacker spot. And I guarantee you he's going to get tested. Greg Bell, he didn't have a great game last week against Calgary. He needs to step up. And then again, Bo Levi against Saskatchewan, they're going to need him to do some things. Saskatchewan's Jackson Ford will be back as a backup. Milligan's not hurt. He's going to be able to play. He's on the roster for tomorrow. So I think that's going to be a great game. It's just I don't know how to pick that game. It's a tough one. I know that Saskatchewan also. Here's the one big change. Peyton Collins, I thought, did a great job for Saskatchewan at left tackle, and they bumped Trevon Tate, who we had in Toronto. He's been in Hamilton. He's been all over the East, and I think he's a really good player. He's a bit of a knucklehead, but he's a really good player. And they moved him down to guard, and I thought he was very dominant inside and kind of controlled things for Saskatchewan at guard. They're now going to play Daniel Johnson, who's a rookie Canadian, who's kind of he used to be a tight end, and now he's a tackle. That's going to be the matchup that they have to win because. Again, I think that's just the one sore spot I have with Saskatchewan. Because when Peyton Collins was in there, I thought they were just fine. So it's going to be they're interesting games this weekend, Rod.
Oh, as always. You're right about how difficult they are. Last week I was 4-0 in the picks. This week I'm not. Well, I'm already 0-1 because I had BC to win last night. But here's one: Bo Levi. Bo Levi is going after his 100th win. It'll be the fastest quarterback to get it in CFL history. And even if it doesn't happen tomorrow, whenever it happens, he will have done it the fastest ever. Whereas Trevor Harris has won 5 in a row. And I feel like you've read the game notes. He's 11-6 as a starter for Saskatchewan. It's nice to have those iconic quarterback battles, is it not? For you as the TV guy now, the media guy, rather than some backup nobody's ever heard of, that's nice. And I always loved Ryder games at Hamilton. There's something about that place, I think, because it means so much to everybody. It's a great CFL city. That's
it is.
Why I've got it as the game of the week, to be honest, for me.
Really? Yeah, it's going to be, it will be great. But you're exactly right. Great quarterback play lends itself to great games. That game last night, I didn't think Streveler could play like that, and he did. When you got him playing the way he did, and Nathan Rourke playing on the other, you're going to have a great football. And that was a great football game. There was a lot of exciting things that happened, a lot of big plays. The little returner, Valva for Winnipeg was dynamic. I mean, you don't see that kind of athleticism in the American game. You watch the UFL or you watch even the NFL, it's on a smaller field. You can't see the athleticism displayed the way I thought it was last night. I just felt like both teams were playing a lot of man coverage, so you could see receivers actually separating, and there was just a lot of things about that game that showed the beauty of the Canadian Football League. So, but yeah, in terms of picking them, that's tough. It's a tough one.
Gary in Winnipeg writes in about the face of the league. He says, in my opinion, not even close to who would be. Oh, hang on. He says, how about Coach O'Shea's trim job on his beard? He looks 15 years younger and looks like he could put the pads on for a game. He probably could, but he's the guy a couple of weeks ago, Jim Barker said, is the face of the CFL as far as you're concerned. Edmonton has the bye. How worried should they be that they're 0-1? I thought they showed pretty well in Edmonton. And if not for that called back punt return touchdown, it would have been a closer game, I thought, under the orange top there.
Well, I thought that too until I watched BC last night. BC as non-physical as they were and play the way they did, and I thought, wow, maybe Edmonton is not much better. But I think any team that like Hamilton right now, I think that Calgary Hamilton game last week, I said one team's going to come out. Calgary won the game. They're coming out and they got the world. They got the world by the balls. I mean, it's their world now. They're undefeated in the preseason. They're playing great. Here they come into Toronto, who's 0-1 and doubting themselves. You got Hamilton going into Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, they were able to get a win, a tough win, but they got a win against an Eastern opponent. Now they come into Hamilton with a little bit more, and Hamilton's like, wow, we went through this again. And, if they don't get – now the pressure on winning, like for Hamilton and Toronto this week at home, the pressure's on them to win. Yet they're playing teams that won last week that are coming in on a bit of a high early in the season. You can lose it in a hurry. I mean, last year, Hamilton started the season 0-5, and they just couldn't recover from it. Winnipeg went 0-4 and recovered. But usually it's tough to recover from that. So a lot of that has to do with the mental makeup of your team and what happens when you lose games. And that Calgary-Hamilton loss, I think, it hurts Hamilton. It puts more pressure on them against Saskatchewan than they would normally have.
Absolutely. Everybody's got the Riders picked to win. I'm actually going with the Ticats because it was raining. It was echoing in my head. They're Jim's Grey Cup winner, the Ticats. I think they're going to win tomorrow, but I'm like the only guy that does.
Yeah, I kind of think they are too. I don't know why. I just kind of that thing of they can't go 0-5 again. I just can't see that happening. Yeah. Their receiving core is a little better. They just didn't. They played almost like they were not sure. I mean, it was surprising to me because I'd been to a lot of their practices. But again, I'm picking them to bounce back. I think that Hamilton will play well against Saskatchewan, and I'm really worried about that left tackle spot for Saskatchewan. I hope Daniel Johnson steps in and does fantastic because that helps the league to have a Canadian who can step in at left tackle. But I got a lot of question marks about it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they're able to do offensively. They'll have AJ Ouellette and Kadeem Carey carrying the ball. That's a good thing. So it just makes for a great game. It really does.
They're saying in Sask that AJ Ouellette got a heck of a lot healthier, faster when Kadeem Carey showed up in town. Could you believe that would be a thing? He was healthy all of a sudden. Oh my God.
Well, I'm sure what happened was it had to have been a concussion. And
okay.
And once that wears off, they retest you, and once he gets himself back to where he was before the game, then they clear him to play. So that's what I'm guessing it was. But again, we talked about this last week. When you're a runner like AJ Ouellette, who is a downhill, smack you in the face guy, you don't change that when you lose weight. You're still that guy.
It's not going to be fitness.
But now you're doing it.
Sorry, Jim. Sorry. I assume you were telling him that we were going to break. My apologies, Jim. But we got the gist of it, and we'll be coming back.